This is called Field Point Landing. It's where we had to get on the ferry. So you can see the ferry over there. Here it is again. No, it's just a person ferry. Though people did bring their bikes on the ferry, but so this is a map of the village, Holden Village. It used to be an old mining town, right? The guy who ended up getting Holden Village for the Lutheran Church to use as a camp, he saw it in the Anchorage Daily News. He wrote 3 letters to this mining company. The first one, he was in Anchorage when he wrote. But he asked them saying, hey, I'd like to buy this, or I'd like this land for a Lutheran camp. And they're like, well, we're selling it for, an impossible amount of money. A few years later, he asked again, saying, hey, I would like, this property would be really cool for a Lutheran camp. And they said, well, you can buy it for this impossible amount of money. And then a couple years after that, he wrote a 3rd time, saying, hey, I'd like this area for a camp. And they said, we'll sell it to you for $1. But so the lodges, right, is where all the miners used to stay. The chalets, I assume, are where the uppity-ups would stay. But, so Narnia is the school. It's the smallest school district in the state of Washington. I think there were 5 kids. A one-room schoolhouse situation. There's a bowling alley and ice cream and pool tables in the village center. Koinonia is the library where we had our worship space. Lodge 6 is the handyman's dream, because the first half of it is very large. It's tools and stuff galore. Then there's the hike house where you get your hiking supplies at the other end of that. And then in the hotel is where the dining hall was. And then we were all in Lodge 4. We stayed in Lodge 4. So this is the way we drove in on the bus, because the lake was this way. And there were some cool hikes though, that way and that way too. So I had to get a picture of my son in there. This is my son shaking it's really sweet when we drive into the village on the bus. The whole staff, they meet you and they greet you, and it's really nice and inviting. So my son found one of those flags and was shaking it. So this was on one of our hikes. I couldn't tell you where exactly, just around the village. Ooh, I like this picture because this was me channeling my inner Anna. Because Anna is an expert at taking timed photos, like setting up the phone somewhere, setting a timer, and getting us in it. But so this was me just putting the phone on the ground. So that's why most of it is the ground. But I like it because all of us who went on this particular hike are in this picture. Huh?
I've done like a second photo before.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Good. It's always good for everybody to be. Woo. Neil, do you want to tell us what this was?
Well, that's 2 different Hilton wheels, and they ran a 14-inch water line from 600 plus feet above here to operate these generators with the Pelton wheels. And I heard both in the summer they could make either 250 or 400 megawatts. And in the winter it's 75, that's the other Pelton wheel. But they can't burn enough electricity. They leave the lights on and all electric water heaters and everything, electric heat. Amazing what
In the
they.
summer, anyway. Right.
Yeah.
So the village is powered by hydroelectric. These spin, right? This one's the one for the summer. The red one was winter. And like Neil said, in summer, they have more electricity than they know what to do with. In winter, though, sometimes there's power outages. I think you can wash your clothes, but they don't let you put them in the dryer. You have to hang them up to dry because, in winter it's frozen. But yeah, so we got a tour of the hydroelectric plant little thing that they have. It was cool. At the village, that verse in the Bible where it's the lamb will lay down with the lion and everything's kind of peaceful, and because there are lots of deer in the village and they were not scared of humans whatsoever. There'd just be some, every night there'd be at least 4 deer roaming around, and then there was one with some babies. So this was the dining hall. We were there right before peak season, which I think all of us liked because that meant there was 100 people in the village, most of that staff. In peak season, there could be 350 to 400 people total. But there's always kind of 90 staff or so. But so this was in the dining hall. I don't remember what meal this was. There's Anna and me, Aiden. I think that's Neil right there. Yeah.
Larry in the house.
Yeah, Larry over there. Oh, got a little photo of him. Sean, what's his name? He was a volunteer there for 3 months. He helped clean a lot. He was very kind. Oh, Pete, will you tell us about this?
So, I think that was after like our third day of being introduced into the vegetarian lifestyle. We were all a little bit angry, and I think I was probably a little angrier than most. So I remember waking up in the morning and I had this weird dream of smelling bacon in the middle of the night, and I thought to myself, that's really cool. And I saw Holly first thing in the morning, and she's got these huge eyes, and she goes, "There's bacon!" And I'm like, I was dreaming that.
But if you like tofu and rice, you would love this place.
They do a good job with tofu. I told them it was tofu bacon.
So the only times that we had meat in the village was shrimp paste in one of the curries, and then bacon on this day. And because it's hard to ship in meat, and all their food they have to bring in and stuff, but so they're very health conscious and environmentally conscious. But so when we do get meat, it was like a treat. And so,
Whose breakfast was that? Carlos.
You're cold.
So, Carol, do you want to tell us what you were doing?
Oh, get it, Betty.
Right.
The flowers.
Yeah. Carol was keeping the plants beautiful all around the village. So this is Lodge 4 where we stayed. Half of us were on the first floor and half were on the second. Both of them, you can't see them in this picture, but there was a porch swing. So we would all often be outside, be sitting and enjoying the breeze and the outside of the mountains.
And we were the only ones in the lodge. We had the whole building to ourselves, which was nice.
Bathrooms were on the end though, no bathrooms in the room. Had to walk down, but that was okay.
Each room had a sink.
Yes.
It was nice.
Cold water bathrooms.
Cold water. That's right, there was no hot water until we bugged them about it. Ooh, so this is a picture of Heart Lake. You can see its heart a little bit, the divot right there, right? So there's the heart. Hi. So this was myself, Ramona, and Pete. We watched the Hike Lake. It was 5 miles out, 5 miles back, and Yeah, it was very beautiful.
This hike to this lake made me feel like, like, you know, Holden is about experiencing the awe and wonder of God. And on this hike, it was like, if you're just willing to get out and put yourself in my wonderful creation, look what I made for you. It was spectacular.
Larry, will you tell us what this place was?
Well, that's the place where you've got the hiking equipment. I'm surprised there's a picture of me there because I only visited it one time. We got some bear spray there, and it made us feel very comfortable walking away from the pasture and Ramona and Pete, as the shorter version was our job, and we had to go back toward where the bear had been.
Spoiler, we saw a bear. We have a picture of it. But we got bear spray. Yeah, this is where the hiking poles are. This is also where they have you sign in and after you've gone on a hike, you know, so you don't get lost. This, you can see it in the back. It's just a map of some of the hikes around the village. So here's Holden Village. And we did 10 Mile Falls. It's 2 miles. And then Heart Lake, and there was some up here to Copper Peak and stuff that we did. Oh, so look! Ramona, will you tell us what this is?
That was the cinnamon black bear that we saw on our hike.
Yeah! So we made sure Martin got a picture.
Ollie said, get Martin up over there.
So this was us on the hike where we saw the bear. I liked the trees in this picture. So, Neil, what is this?
Okay, it's a marmot.
We had some disagreement whether to call this a marmot or a woodchuck.
Woodchuck, yeah.
But so we saw a couple, whatever this is around. This was when we broke off to do some extra hiking. I was the one who took this picture, and I remember after taking it, I saw behind them, and it just kind of, like Ramona was saying, took me back, because it's just like, wow, so beautiful. This is I think this was
Railroad Creek.
Thank you. Yeah, Railroad Creek, right by the village. You can see some of the reclamation that the mine is working on over there. Oh, so this picture, Holly, will you tell us what this is a picture of?
That is the road when you're on the school bus and they're going up to the mine.
To the village.
Sorry, to the village, right. So this is the lake, right?
Yeah.
And then we would go like Betty said she'd have to take medication to be able to be on that. But it was cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of switchbacks.
When was the fire?
Hmm?
When was the fire?
10 years before.
Oh, wow.
It was very close to the village.
I wonder.
But, yeah. Well, U-turns, you can turn around if you needed to in some of the spots, but probably more the corners than in the middle of the spots. Aiden.
Look at the picture.
Is that you?
Yeah.
So that's just me and Aiden by the river, by the village. There was a nature trail, I'm pretty sure that's what we're on. So these are a picture of some of the chalets.
That's the staff.
Right, the staff lived in the chalets. I think the pastor had a chalet to themselves and their family and such. Carol, will you tell us what you're doing in this picture?
Sorry, honey. They have these watercolor pen pencils that you color them and they put water on them.
There was lots of opportunities to do art in the village.
But we should talk about, what was our friend's name that's in the foreground of this? Ash.
Yeah.
Right there.
Anne was the most amazing person. She was so unusual looking, and I got to introduce myself to her and talk to her, and I thought she was like in college, and she was just finishing 8th grade. And well-spoken, voice, could sing, write poetry.
And then she did the cantor during the Holden service and has the most amazing voice. Oh my God.
And she was an amazing person. And you look at her, she had all her spiky stuff and her mohawk, and it just reaffirmed, you don't judge a book by their cover.
Yeah, Ash was a good example of don't judge a book by its cover, because again, you can see a little bit of her mohawk, and I think you can see one day she wore spikes, but again, the sweetest person. She sang the Holden evening service at Holden when we were there.
I want to give props to Carol because Ash came in with somebody else late. I think the person was taking the picture. And we were kind of all doing stuff, and we could have easily just went, oh, hello, I'm not judging you, but okay. And gone on, and Carol, you're the one who said, hi, I'm Carol, what's your name? And she was so gracious and loving in front of everything, you know what I mean? That it really opened it up, and makes me think about next time I'm in a situation like that, instead of just not saying something, but instead saying something. That was super cool. And Ash was there because it was alumni weekend. She was there with her grandmother.
Oh, wow, that's
Right.
cool.
And she had attended with high schoolers a couple of weeks before or something like that. So, oh yeah. Yeah.
So this was just another scenery around the village. Larry, do you remember what this was called, this falls?
10 Mile.
Yeah, this is the end of 10 Mile Falls. So you can see Martin, of course. We had right, which is only a mile out, mile back.
But it was 10 miles from something.
Right. But this man, if you're like, what's that? That's my dad. And then that's Lynn from Christ Our Savior and Levant from Christ Our Savior. And then I hope you recognize the rest of you. So here's the deer again. I never actually saw this deer in this children. So at Holden, they're very, very good about composting. They call it garbology. And so they would have these really fancy tanks to compost everything. And this is their garden. They didn't actually grow that much food. I'm also surprised they didn't have chickens. But
They didn't grow food for people. It was all food for the deer. Which is why they didn't grow food for the people.
Maybe they didn't have chickens because of bears. They might not have chickens because of bears. Maybe someday they have bigger chickens.
so in some Holden merchandise, you'll see kind of this M shape. And that is this outline of the mountains. Because that is kind of their symbol. Like this is the view that Holden likes to sell itself on.
And that's the view from the jacuzzi.
Yeah, there's a view from the jacuzzi. You can see a little of the cover, yeah. Neil, will you tell us what you're doing in this picture?
I'm leading a paddle and I'm missing the ball.
Neil graced us by playing pickleball with us. Pickleball. So here are our pickleball champions. We got Ramona, Neil, Holly, and Pete all playing pickleball. Anna was playing pickleball too, because she wasn't going to let something like being pregnant stop her from doing what she was. So this was us during our Bible study. And like I said, my parents were on this trip. But they were very gracious because they watched Aiden so that we could have that much better of a time during our Bible study. So this was the picture of us looking at, because we had a candid one. Anyway, so.
I'm holding Martin.
Yep, and Martin.
Oh, yeah?
You know, Martin. So they have 2 worship spaces. This was the worship space we were in when we were there, which I like this one better anyway. This is a view from up at the loft. We did, I can't remember what they had called it, but they were doing prayers. And so I just got a picture of up above with the candles and them laying on their hands.
They called it prayer around the cross.
There.
There's the candle.
Thank you. Prayer around the cross. So this is where we have our evening worships, and this is where we also heard the Holden at Holden. You can see Ash too. So this is a picture of their fancy compost things, where the guy said words like, what is the A word? You have to add something like ACA to the compost, and it just does it itself. But there's 3 containers, and so they named them Luke, Leah, and Tom.
And the freezers had signs on the doors. They were Larry, Moe, and Curly. Yeah, they have a great sense of humor.
So I took this picture. I saw this chipmunk like exploring this pine tree, and I had never seen that before. So you can see.
We need to come to our backyard.
I'll just say something here. I grew up in the Black Hills with chipmunks everywhere, and these guys outweigh them by 3 times. They really could get food there.
The ones in the South Hills were bigger, you're saying?
Now these are huge. Some of them anyway, the older ones.
Ramona, will you tell us about this picture?
So this was coming back from Heart Lake, and on the far side of the valley, I saw this patch of snow that just had the silhouette, the shadow of these trees on it. And I thought, I wonder if I can zoom in far enough to get a picture of that. And I took the picture and I said, and the snow is the shape of Alaska. I love that.
Guys, you got the Aleutians over there, the southeast, and then the rest. We got a little bit of the Seward Peninsula.
They're all leaning.
So this was the day we were leaving. This was near Lucerne, which is the port from getting to and from Holden. But so yeah, this Lynn and Levon from Christ our Savior, and then Barb, which was Levon's cousin, and then there's Carol. So they were just all out for a walk. This is Heart Lake again. I think Ramona took this picture because she liked how the was
In your dress?
Pastor, did anybody happen to know, is that Lake Chelan, is it river fed or is it just snow melt?
I think it's river fed. There is a dam. It produces hydropower. So there is a dam, but I think it's river fed.
Yeah, we just hydro things, even during the winter, the water's still running underneath.
Well, Lake Chelan probably doesn't freeze. It's huge.
Well, just look at a map. Washington's full of those dams that are made out. We drove by a couple of them when we came out.
So on one of the nature trails, there was this little old tree stump that someone had carved, made a door. You can see the door hinge right there. And so that's just Aiden. We put him in it.
I was camping at Lake Chelan the weekend that Mount St. Helens blew.
Oh.
Yeah, we got ash bad. This is why we don't go camping.
So this was on the drive up. We saw this. This was another cinnamon kind of colored black bear. Because there are no grizzly bears in Washington. Just black. Carol, will you tell us about the sprinklers?
It's just weird, you wake up in the morning and it's just pouring rain, and then it stops, and it starts pouring again. Took us a while to figure out it was these giant sprinklers,
Yeah.
and they come on several mornings. Pretty big, they're huge.
I bet those were installed after that fire. to
After the
help
fire, yeah,
protect.
to water everything down.
They have plenty of water, so.
Yeah. They water everything.
There's another one.
Neil.
Yeah, so this is the day
Sorry.
this was the day that we left the village.
I think Larry's doing that.
I know better than that, Neil.
And Aiden is very easy to spot, should he get away from you.
Yeah.
I like the neon green.
So these are more of the chalets.
And the jacuzzi enclosure.
Yeah, this is where the jacuzzi was there. There was also a sauna. I don't know if we got any pictures of the sauna.
We don't.
Not And when we left the village, we spent an hour and a half. We took a little detour to the tourist town of Leavenworth. And so this was part of the main street. They have it blocked off, so it's just pedestrian traffic.